Cult encounter. It's strange how the most ordinary nights can spiral into something you'd never expect. This all happened a few years ago in Prijedor, a quiet town in Bosnia where everyone knows everyone, or at least, we think we do. It was a warm July evening, the kind where the air feels heavy and the streets are calm, echoing the lazy hum of summer. I was riding my bike, enjoying the solitude, when a bearded man stepped into my path, waving me down. He was in his late 40s, scruffy but with a friendly demeanor that didn't immediately set off any alarm bells. He had this way of talking that drew you in, like every word was meant just for you. We started chatting, and he seemed genuinely nice, asking about my life and talking about the town like he'd been there forever. I didn't think twice about the odd familiarity he showed. After all, in a small place like Prijedor, people always seem to know more about you than they should. But just as I was about to leave, he threw me a curveball. He said he wanted to introduce me to his daughter. There was something unsettling about the way he said it, but I brushed it off as some awkward joke. I gave him a polite smile, made an excuse, and pedaled away, feeling the unease settle but not quite understanding why. Months went by, and I forgot about the bearded man. It wasn't until a frigid November night that he reappeared. Snow had blanketed the town, and the streets were slick and empty, the kind of cold that makes you wish you'd never left the house. My friend Amir and I were trudging through the snow, headed to the local convenience store to grab some snacks, when we saw him again. He was standing outside the old house of Mr. Jovic, an elderly man who'd been living there as long as I could remember. The bearded guy waved us over, his breath fogging in the icy air. "You boys look frozen. Come inside and warm up," he said, gesturing to the house behind him. I hesitated, my breath catching in my throat. That house was well known in town. Everyone knew Mr. Jovic, the grumpy but kind old man who kept to himself. The bearded guy caught my hesitation and quickly explained. "I'm his son. My dad's on vacation, and I'm watching the place while he's gone." He spoke so casually, so naturally, that for a moment, I believed him. The story checked out. It wasn't unusual for people to step in for their aging parents. But something in his eyes made me pause, that same unsettling feeling from July creeping back in. I glanced through the window and saw a young girl inside, the granddaughter of Mr. Jovic. I'd seen her before around town, and her presence put me at ease. If she was there, everything must be fine, right? Amir seemed unfazed, already heading inside to escape the cold, so I followed. The bearded man made us tea, and we warmed up in the dimly lit living room. Everything seemed ordinary, pictures of the old man's family on the walls, the faint smell of wood smoke in the air. I started to relax, telling myself this was just a good Samaritan helping his dad out. We left a short while later, saying our goodbyes and heading to the store. On the way back, Amir's girlfriend happened to drive by and offered us a lift, saving us from the freezing walk home. We were joking around in the car, talking about nothing in particular when two police cars came roaring down the street, lights flashing, sirens piercing through the night. We all turned to watch, but in a small town like ours, police presence wasn't exactly unheard of. Maybe a domestic dispute, a car accident, nothing that seemed connected to us. But as we turned the corner toward Mr. Jovic's house, our chatter died in our throats. There, right in front of the house, were 3 more police cars, their lights reflecting off the snow like a chaotic dance of red and blue. Officers were everywhere, some speaking urgently into radios, others looking around as if searching for something or someone. I felt my heart rate quicken, my mind racing to piece together what was happening. We stopped the car, watching in stunned silence as the scene unfolded. It didn't take long for the truth to come out. Mr. Jovic was, indeed, on vacation, just as the bearded man had claimed. But everything else? A lie. The bearded guy wasn't his son, not even a relative. He had forced his way into the house, coercing the old man's daughter and granddaughters to play along as his pretend family. He'd been living there, controlling them through threats and manipulation. I felt my stomach drop as I realized how close we'd come to something far more sinister. It turned out that the daughter had taken a chance that night while he was distracted. She slipped away, called the police, and begged for help. But by the time the police arrived, the bearded man had already fled into the night, vanishing as quickly as he had appeared. We drove away in stunned silence, my mind replaying every interaction, every red flag I had ignored. That night, I barely slept. Around 3 a.m., I was jolted awake by the sound of banging on my front door. I shot up, adrenaline coursing through my veins. When I peeked through the window, I saw him, the bearded man, his face twisted with anger, yelling something unintelligible. His fists pounded on the door, each knock echoing like a thunderclap in the still night. I stumbled back, heart racing, and immediately called the police. By the time they arrived, he was gone, leaving only the eerie silence and the icy fear that clung to me. The weeks that followed were a blur of anxiety and paranoia. Every shadow felt like him, every unfamiliar face in town set my nerves on edge. I avoided the old man's house, avoided anything that reminded me of that night. It wasn't until last month that I finally got some semblance of closure. The bearded man had been arrested. He was part of a radical Salafi cult, one of those dangerous offshoots that prey on the vulnerable. His crimes were even darker than I'd imagined: assault, manipulation, marrying a minor. The man was a predator in every sense of the word, hiding behind a facade of warmth and familiarity. I wish I could say that knowing he was caught made everything better, but the truth is, it left scars that still ache. It's unsettling how easily evil can slip into your life, disguised as a friendly stranger on a quiet summer night. I've learned to trust my instincts more, to look beyond the surface of things, and to never underestimate the darkness that can hide behind a smile.